In 1969, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera taught a dog and a stoner to solve mysteries, and the world was never the same. Welcome to Idiots Review the Do, a Scooby Doo podcast, the Mystery Gang and the Curious Tale of the Great Dane, the Scooby Don'ts Gang, Scooby Snacks and Chill. I'm Ashley, and I'm joined by my co-host, Bowtie.
How's it going? I'm Ty. I'm here because I also like Scooby Doo and do the homework like I'm told.
Hooray! So that's not the full... I promised Ty he'd learn what we chose the podcast name to be at the start. That was not the full name.
That's a lot. That's a very long name.
Sorry, that's more than the full name. Really, I settled on Idiots Review the Do. Subtitle, a Scooby Doo podcast. The rest were all just other names we workshopped, and I thought it was a funny bit to throw them all in at the start.
Hey, you gotta throw them in somewhere because some of them were pretty good.
Oh yeah, we workshopped a bunch. So this is a Scooby Doo watch/review type podcast. The idea is each episode we'll watch a new episode of Scooby Doo in order, typically, and then discuss it because we like Scooby Doo.
So the first episode of Scooby Doo, Where Are You?, which is the first series in 1969.
1969, yeah.
God,
September,
I feel old.
I believe.
The first one is What a Night for a Night. It actually, something I noticed in this episode, at least, was obvious to me. Fred's name is never said.
Really? I didn't pick that up. Do you think they'd not come up with a name for him yet?
Well,
they were
okay,
like, we'll figure it out by the time the first episode airs, and then they didn't.
So depending on what you subscribe to, he didn't have a name quite yet, and they were still working on his name. And one of the names they had come up with wasn't even Fred, it was Ronnie.
Ronnie is not a leader's name.
And that's another thing I actually wanted to bring up, is that Shaggy is actually the leader in this episode.
I mean, he certainly takes the lead, but he's not the leader of the gang. I think you can tell, right?
Well, this is the very first episode of Scooby Doo. But Shaggy takes the leadership role, and it actually shows him he may be scared, but he has the leadership qualities in him, at least in this episode.
Well, okay, I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves there. Should we start from the beginning?
Yeah, sure.
And if I recall, it starts out with that iconic theme song, doesn't it? Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? We've got some work to do now as they run around spooky houses. And is it the mist or a bunch of bats come out of spooky house?
It's mist in this one because it's actually the first two episodes have a different opening to the third episode.
Oh, do they? Oh, we'll have to make note of that when we get around to the third one then. Okay, but yeah, iconic opening, and then it cuts to Shaggy and Scooby walking in the woods. No, it's not, is it? It starts off with a man driving a crate around the back of his pickup truck.
Yes, going to a museum, which is per standard in Scooby Doo universe.
Yeah, that's in the template a good few times, isn't it? Ancient artifact goes to museum or some sort of professional location.
Speaking of the opening, a couple of shots are used throughout the entire Scooby Doo Where Are You? Lifetime. Scooby Doo leaping out of the flower pot, the gang reading a book in the library, and this Black Knight's shadow on Scooby.
Oh, nice.
Those are the three from this episode that stay in the main theme throughout the entire lifetime of the show.
Which was 3 seasons long, between 69 and 71? 70?
I feel like it was longer, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so each series only lasted a couple of months at most. Like, they'd start in September and they'd be done by November. I'm pretty sure the second season is only 8 episodes, so it starts in September and it ends by the end of October. So we've got the night coming down. Well, we don't know it's the night yet, we just know it's a box going to a museum, it's got a professor's name on the side of it, and there's someone driving it, right?
Yeah, I think it's Professor Hyde.
Okay, and then it moves over to Scooby and Shaggy, right?
They're walking home from the movies.
They're walking home from the movies, and they've gone through the creepy woods. That's exactly what my notes say. Shaggy and Scoob walk through creepy woods, and then Scooby-Doo chases a frog, which is something he's wont to do, because he does chase other animals quite regularly, doesn't he?
He does, frequently in the show.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed about this early season is there's a laugh track in it.
There is, yeah.
So Scooby goes chasing the frog, laugh track hits. But
I think a laugh track persists throughout the entire series.
I think it does, but I just mean this is like where it starts. Scooby chases the frog, laugh track starts, and then this is all just segueing though into finding the truck.
Scooby and Shaggy find the truck and then leave to get the rest of the game.
And then then it cuts to rest of the gang in out there, and we're introduced to the full mystery gang. And
who we've not heard. Fred's name is never said.
No. And then they find the truck, no driver, but in the passenger seat or the driver's seat is the armor, the Black Knight's armor. And then
I have it written down here. The museum's called County Museum. Never said a name, just County Museum.
The only museum in the county.
The only museum in the county. Yep.
Well, the rest were all shut down when their various exhibits came to life, and the Scooby Gang weren't around to stop them.
So my theory for that one was that, because it says County Museum, this is the first instance of Coolsville.
Is it Coolsville though? Is it?
I think. Well, isn't that where they're from? Coolsville.
It depends on the series, right? Because in the live-action Scooby Doo movie, the second one, they're from Coolsville, and that harkens back to this a lot, doesn't it? This series. Yeah. So it could be, but in another series like Mystery Incorporated, they're from, what is it, Crystal Cove? Crystal Cove,
yeah. And then in a pup named Scooby Doo, which is technically a prequel to this, also says Coolsville. So okay. I'm gonna go with Coolsville.
They're probably in Coolsville, but they're probably not determined that yet. That probably comes a bit later. But I've got a note here that says, when they find the armor and no driver in the truck, Fred declares it's another mystery. Episode 1, and they're talking about previous mysteries.
Yeah, you won't see the prequel till 29 years later with a pup named Scooby Doo.
Yeah. So they end up somehow getting the armor back to the museum, probably in the back of the mystery machine. I don't think we see yet, though we might do. So we say we watched this weeks ago, so we've got notes and a recollection of what happens in what order, but not necessarily details yet.
They do drive in. I have it written down. This is the first instance of the mystery machine.
So okay, cool. So we've got the mystery machine, another iconic staple that stays throughout the entirety of the show, and I don't just mean where he's Scooby Doo. And they get to the museum, and they meet the museum curator or another professor of history, and he tells them of the legend of the Black Knight.
Yes, they meet the curator, Mr. Wickles.
Yes.
Who happens to be the Black Knight.
Oh, spoiler alert there.
Yeah, you know what? I can spoil a really old show at this point.
I meant for the end of the podcast, or the end of this episode. But there we have it. It's an instance of the culprit tells the gang about the mystery,
which is also kind of a running theme.
That's why I've got it noted here, so we can tally up as the episodes go by how many times it's the culprit that tells the gang what's going on,
or somebody directly related to the culprit.
Someone who knows what's going on. So I think they determine what's done is done. However, my next note is Velma is baffled by the mystery, but hasn't actually done anything yet.
I have written down here Benjamin Franklin glasses.
Oh, that was it. That was their first clue. They find a pair of Benjamin Franklin glasses. Scooby just happens onto them. Oh, that was my next note after this, sorry. Scoob steals, no one cares, but it progresses the plot eventually. So I think that's it. We get the story about the night. Velma's baffled by the whole mystery, but hasn't even begun to investigate. Scoob finds a pair of Benjamin Franklin glasses and steals them.
And then we go to the iconic library scene.
Yes. And Velma says, "Hold on to your hula hoops."
When did she say that?
I don't know. I think it's in the thing, because that's my next note, is after Scooby steals the glasses. My next note is just "hold on to your hula hoops," which is definitely a Velma line. Oh, and then the gang go to the library after that. So that's my next note. This is why we make notes here, people, so we can logically track what's going on in the episode. So they go to the library, they look up history of the Black Knight, presumably. And then they decide they need to go back to the museum.
See, my next note, that was what I was saying. My next note is Shaggy's a gymnast.
Oh, mine's a few more after that. Mine is trespass at the museum, breaking and entering to add on to the stealing. And then they decide they need to get in through an open window, right? That's a couple floors up.
Yes.
And they're like, we'll get the ladders. So they grab a pair of ladders. It's too short, so they use a jack. You know, one of those things you lift your car up with. What are they called?
They're called a jack.
Just a jack. And they put the jack under the ladders and jack up the ladders. And I'm like, would ladders work like that? Can you just jack up a pair of ladders to make them taller?
You can, actually. It's very unsafe, and I don't recommend it, but you can.
Okay. And then the next note is Shaggy equals gymnast, because it's still a bit too short. So Shaggy does a little bit of gymnastics to jump up to and squeeze through a tiny window. But that's Shaggy's tiny stoner frame, isn't it?
I don't know. It's like, I think the direct line is he's the hippest, the swingiest gymnast in school.
They definitely say something about him being a gymnast in school, yeah.
So, and then my next note after that is, how old are they?
Well, this is the original series where they're all teenagers, meddling kids, as it were.
I suppose, yeah. Well, I mean, they've been meddling kids for a while.
They have, but I think they're still kids. So they must be under 18.
But yeah, no, I have another note for your stealing tally here is Scooby steals a bone.
Ooh, Scooby steals a bone. My next note is Scooby snacks. So we get the first instance of Scooby snacks to get Scooby in the museum.
Oh, I have a note about that. It's the only food you see in the show, that episode.
Is it? Mm.
There's no real food other than Scooby snacks in that episode.
They've not established the iconic Shag and Scoob go to the kitchen to make giant sandwiches bit yet. Then, but then we get I think the Knight then shows up.
Thanks to Danger Prone Daphne.
Yeah, and
my next note literally is Danger Prone Daphne strikes again.
Oh, my next note is the Knight seems to have a moon fetish. Because Shaggy then says, you know how the full moon turns on that black night? That must be the legend, that when it's the full moon, the Black Knight comes to life.
That is the legend, yes.
There we go. And Velma and Scoob get chased by the Knight for the first time.
I know we're talking about the plot here, but I have a problem with this.
Okay, go on. We're reviewing and critiquing.
So, the Knight supposedly killed Dr. Hyde.
Okay, supposedly. I think it's sort of faintly implied, right? Because I think the official narrative is he's just gone missing.
Yeah, he's, again, spoilers, he's stuck in the Indian effigy they see.
The one that chases them down?
No, the one that their eyes move.
Oh, is it just moves? Okay.
It just moves, yeah. But he supposedly moved. The night moved. Black Knight moved. And then he moves again. So did it take them a month, or the new moon only the full moon only lasts a day? That was my whole issue, is that like it can't have happened in one night, because the night happened, it was day, they went to the museum, and then it was night again.
Oh, I think you're just revealing cracks in the story there, Ty. I don't think the meddling kids or the police who haven't got involved yet are looking into moon cycles.
Yeah, because I'm tearing holes into a 50-plus-year-old cartoon.
Yes. I believe, 54 years old at the minute.
55.
50 in September.
Yeah, 55 in September, yeah.
The Knight then chases down the gang, right? And Velma drops her glasses, and she can't see anything without her glasses.
Again, a running gag throughout the entire show.
Yeah, they really love their gags. They came up with a few for the first season, and they just brought them out time and time and time again. But then
my next note here is Hitler real in Scooby Doo?
A spoiler for some future content, perhaps, but yes, very much so.
Because they hide in a World War I era biplane, and I know Hitler wasn't World War I, but the fact that World War I exists seemingly means to me that World War II exists.
I mean, what did the plane look like?
It was I don't have notes on the
Okay.
plane itself, but I know it was the old Iron Cross, the Black Iron Cross.
Yeah, that's just the symbol of the German army, right? The Iron Cross.
From World War One specifically.
Okay, but I think
the German army didn't. Well, because we did fight the Germans in World War One. In case people forgot, we fought the Germans twice.
Yep.
But the Iron Cross was the German army symbol for that era of time.
Yes, Scooby Doo doesn't shy away from its wars, though, does it? It does often bringing up mysteries revolving the Civil War as well.
It does, yeah, I think that's the 4th episode. No, where they go to the bayou and they meet the two brothers.
I mean, it comes up a few times, right? Because there's the sister series with the Funky Phantom. He was from the Civil War, and Scooby Doo crosses over with him regularly. There was
the Funky Phantom's actually not from the Civil War. He's from the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. Well, there's another war they like to harken back to. There was the one with the Boo brothers, where Shaggy's great uncle leaves him a house. He was from the war.
Yeah, Scooby does not shy away from the wars, does it?
Or at least shy away from saying the wars were real and happened in this universe. No. But I want to say, before we get to the plane, back to the plot, the gang discover a forgery room. Right? They discover hidden behind a bookcase or some other object, a forgery room where someone is forging priceless antiques and paintings that were held in this museum.
Yes. Yes.
So I think we're getting into what's going on, what the mystery really is here.
I was informed, which is in my notes here, I was informed by my resident artist that it's very difficult to forge paintings.
Yes, you do have to be very, very skilled.
Very, very skilled to forge paintings.
But this is the same group of people that have somehow hidden an entire room in a museum and brought a piece of armor to life. Oh, and somehow taken an entire grown man, hidden him from the police inside an effigy. So we'll say they could do it.
And then, yeah, the gang then hides in the war room.
Yes.
Shaggy hides in
They get chased by the night and they hide in the war room.
Yeah, Shaggy and Scooby hide in the World War One plane, and Brad and the girls hide in a World War II tank.
Yes, and Shaggy does a ventriloquist act to distract the night.
Which is the first time he does it, but not the last.
So Shaggy in episode 1 is both a gymnast and a ventriloquist. And my next idea when I was watching this is, if the rest of the gang are in the tank, why not just use the tank?
I also had the same question.
Because the way they catch the Black Knight is they fly the plane into him, don't they?
Yeah, they don't use a trap.
No, that's my follow-up note, is why not use the tank? And this episode doesn't have a trap yet. So why not just drive the tank and run him over? I guess that's a bit too violent. Scooby Doo.
Too violent for 1969.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they get chased by the night and they drive a plane into it. And then they get the whole, let's see who's really behind the Black Knight moment. Old Man Wickles, as you said earlier.
Professor Wickles.
Professor, yes. And he was using this bit to dispose of the other professor, Professor Hyde, to further his forgery attempts that we mentioned. So they find Old Man Hyde hidden stuffed in the effigy. They get the police on Professor Wickles, and he goes, "I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids, presumably."
Does he say it? I don't know.
That's why I say presumably.
I'm not seeing it in my notes that he says it.
No, my notes kind of stop after they catch Mr. Wickles, but that's the end of the episode. So they establish a number of iconic templates for the Scooby-Doo series, a number of iconic scenes that are used time and time again, but they don't quite get all of them yet.
I have it here at the end. Here is this is the first episode to introduce a fourth wall break.
Ooh, we got a fourth wall break in this one.
I didn't put what it was, but there was a fourth wall break.
Presumably Scooby looks directly at the children watching the TV and says something along the lines of, "Don't forget to buy all of my merchandise."
Okay, so I also wrote down we have the iconic catchphrases of Zoinks 4 times and Rutrow one. And
Right.
2 Scooby Snack bribes.
Yes. That's what he does, is he looks at the fourth wall and he tells the kids, don't forget to take bribes. But that was episode 1. That is the end of Scooby-Doo. What a night for a night. And my god, Ty, it was a night with a night.
It was a night for a night.
Yeah. What did you think of it overall?
I'd say it was an interesting starting point for the series, but comparatively to other starts to other iterations of the series, I'd say it's probably the third best.
Ooh, that's high praise for the number of series we've had.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong start. It starts you right off with, hey, these are established characters. This is established what they do. No fluff, no nothing. Solid 3.
Out of?
I don't know how many Scooby Doo. At least the ones I've seen, I'd say out of 7.
Oh, I thought that was a rating there. Like a solid 3 Scooby Snacks out of 10.
Well, I'd probably rate the episode, if we're doing like a rating system for the episode, I'd probably say this is out of 5. We'll do 5 Scooby Snacks. I'll say it's a solid 2.5 Scooby Snacks out of 5.
I would have given it 6 out of 10, so that's 3 out of 5. So close enough. You know, it was a different time. They were getting their foot in the door, and it eventually worked because they went on to bigger and better things for years and years and years.
And for people out there, we mentioned the Funky Phantom before. The Funky Phantom came out a year after the first season of Scooby-Doo.
The first season of Scooby-Doo must have done so well, or at least the first 2 seasons, possibly even 3 seasons at that point of Scooby-Doo Where Are You, did so well. I think they just chose to monopolise on it, right? Took the same template and just made a whole bunch of different ones.
The ones at least I know of personally are Jabberjaw, Funky Phantom, Speed Buggy, and that's the only ones I know.
I think those are the big 3, right? Because you got Jabberjaws and the Pussycats. Josie and the Pussycats are for the girls.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure the other 2 were just to fill in the market, grab different target audiences.
Was Jabberjaw with the Pussycats?
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, look. Google.
I'm sure Josie and the Pussycats had Jabberjaws.
No, it's he's in a band, but it's not the Pussycat.
Is it not?
It's the Neptunes.
Oh, okay. Were they an all-girl band?
No, the Jabberjaw and the Neptunes is Jabberjaw on drums, Bubbles on keyboard, Biff on guitar, Shelly on tambourine, and Clamhead on bass.
They weren't all sea creatures, were they?
No, they were humans.
Oh, okay. But I was going a bit mad there. Okay.
And it was made in 1976.
Well, okay. Good number of years later then. A whole 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
But they did a lot with this one concept of a bunch of teens and an animal and a mascot solve mysteries.
You know, for all you listeners out there, since this is our first episode, why don't you tell us your favorite Scooby-Doo clone?
Sure, if there's some way to leave a review or a comment, tell us what your favorite Scooby-Doo clone is and why it's better than Scooby-Doo.
Or if you think Scooby-Doo is the best Scooby-Doo there is out there, you say it too.
Tell us which Scooby-Doo as well.
Yeah, what your favorite iteration of Scooby-Doo was.
Yeah, let us know. Until next time, how do we end these?
Until next time. We could have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids.